So we're doing a show on mind-body connection, and I thought it would be interesting to have someone on to talk about something called Alexander Technique. So I have journalist Luke Ford, who also is an Alexander Technique teacher. Welcome.
Hey, good to be here.
So first of all, what is Alexander Technique?
Well, Alexander Technique is the name for a system of work developed by an Australian actor named F.M. Alexander. And it's about 120 years old and is taught in all the major acting and music schools. And it's a little difficult to communicate what it is, so most people define it by saying what it does. And what it does is it makes movement and speech much easier. But what it is a little more complicated. Alexander Technique is a way of noticing how we respond to stimuli and providing a way for us to let go of those responses that do not serve us. So, for instance, speaking on the radio, public speaking, speaking on TV, speaking on a stage is a big stimulus. And the way most people respond to a big stimulus is by tipping their head back and compressing their neck. And you'll listen now, as I tip my head back, my voice starts to strain. I'm losing the quality of my voice. It's getting harder for me to breathe. I start to get hoarse. Have to kind of gasp for breath as my head's tipped back. Now, as I come back to my head being poised on top of my spine, then my voice returns to its full power. So the typical reaction to a stimulus is to tighten up, tighten our whole body, but in particular the neck, and to compress the neck, and then that makes breathing and speech and movement much more difficult.
Is it meditation?
No, and F.M. Alexander was actually quite opposed to meditation. So Alexander Technique is a way of noticing in the present time what we're doing, and it's a way of stopping doing those things that hurt us. So you have to be conscious and aware. So an Alexander teacher with his pupils will say, hey, be aware, I want you to keep your eyes open. I don't want you to zone out. I don't want you to trance out. Because it often feels amazing to let go of unnecessary body tension, and then you want to kind of capture that feeling, but the more you hold on to it, the more you'll tighten and make it difficult to recapture. So the way that you recapture the good feelings is by remembering the thinking that creates them. So Alexander Technique is primarily a cognitive system that is then applied to your body.
So kind of like cognitive behavior therapy, which is for psychology.
Yeah, everyone wants to say, is the Alexander Technique like cognitive behavior therapy, or is it like yoga, or is it like meditation? But it isn't like anything else. It is its own unique system. So one of the major differences between Alexander Technique and cognitive behavioral therapy or any form of psychotherapy is that the Alexander Technique is usually taught hands-on. So the teacher is working with his hands to help the student appreciate what's poise and what's easy movement and what's graceful movement. So cognitive behavioral thinking is checking out how do you respond to stimuli, primarily by checking on your thoughts. But Alexander Technique wants to check out how you respond to stimuli and check out your thoughts, but then how does these thoughts express themselves in the way you use yourself. So your psychotherapist is not going to usually say, oh, do you notice you're tensing or pulling down when you're saying something? But the Alexander Technique teacher will notice that, hey, when you talk about your mother, or when you talk about your job, or when you're talking about your fears about this particular work situation, did you notice how that you were compressing yourself and pulling down?